right, so welcome to our conversation for tonight or today, wherever you are in the world. So if you've not been to this event before, let me give you a rundown at how it works. It's a very collaborative experience. So it isn't necessarily a teaching class where I get to teach a lot of content. It's a conversation that you get to share your insights, your thoughts, and your wisdom that you have on this particular topic that we're focused on today, which is your telos, and what is your telos, and what does it mean to live a life according to your telos. So we're going to focus on that topic for tonight. So anytime that you want to unmute yourself and just ask a question, or if you'd like to make a statement or share some information that you know, then feel free to just do so. You can also add in the chat section. So if you wanted to do a welcome, who you are, so your name's going to show, and where you're from, and maybe what inspired you to come along for this class tonight. I'd love to know that for you, what's inspired you to come along to learn about your telos for today. So if we get into a little bit of like a discussion first, I'll give you some background in terms of what is telos, and then we'll share a little bit about that as well. So first of all, if you're not familiar with it, it is a Greek word which means purpose and meaning. So, and that's something I know majority of people, particularly people who are into personal development and growth, they want to have more purpose, or what they perceive to be more purpose and more meaning in their life. Would everyone agree or not? It's like, nah, I don't want any purpose. No, yeah, everyone, lots of people are nodding. Okay. So in terms of being able to have more purpose and meaning, we look at, say, Napoleon Hill, and he talked about having this major purpose in life is like trying to reach for the stars. So it's like to develop, but it's also to discover and then develop this unwavering focus on one particular thing. So then it's described as this definitiveness of purpose. So it means that we have a clear understanding of what it is, and then we have this like burning drive and desire in order to go and deliver it to the world. One thing that is important about this drive and this desire to go and fulfill it is that we're not distracted by things that will take us away from pursuing this purpose. It's kind of like the marshmallow test, right? You know, if you've seen it, and the child's given one marshmallow and its purpose is to get 2 marshmallows, but sometimes it's just like it gets distracted and just wants to eat the first marshmallow, and then it doesn't get the second one. So it's like having this like unwavering and not being distracted, or having shiny objects that go, oh wow, that's exciting, I'll go do that for a little while, and then something else glistens over here, and then you go focus on that. And so we can end up not fulfilling what's really truly meaningful, because distractions take us away from it in the first place. Does anyone feel that way sometimes in their life, that it's the shiny object syndrome or the distraction, or they can't really seem to stay focused on, like, yeah, that in terms of being in terms of having that single-minded focus? It makes me think about, say, like Steve Jobs, for example. He had this purpose with Apple, and it was to create products that would essentially like revolutionize the whole industry. Like he discovered, does anyone remember, it was like, I remember when I got my first Apple iPhone, I was like 2010. It was maybe a bit delayed by most people, but it was around that time. And when someone said to me, Tanya, you got to go get an Apple. I had one of those analogs, you know, you could, touch type, and you sometimes have to go 1, 2, 3 because you need to get the little F or whatever, and the next one, and you just got really good at without even looking at it, because you could feel the buttons on your fingers. Do you remember those phones, for those people? Okay, so then I was like, I don't need an Apple like iPhone. Why would I need an app? Like my brain couldn't even have the concept of it. But then when I had it in my hands, and I finally succumbed and bought one, I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know I needed this. It's kind of like that revolutionized the way that we use technology. It changed the way that we do business. It changed the way that we look at the world, because he had this like single-minded focus. Even like changed, and as a byproduct, he changed like technology in the music industry, because he wanted to move away from like having, CD players, for example. And it was like, having access to any song in the entire world, all on Spotify, for example. You get access, or Apple Music, you get access to it all the time. So it's like revolutionized a lot of other industries as a result. So he had this single-minded focus, and it's made an impact like long after his death as well. So then we also look at like telos. It's also known as your chief aim. So then you have to question, okay, so what's a chief aim? And again, it's this single-minded purpose. So it's a finding this burning desire, again, that essentially like propels you into action. So the burning desire is really, really interesting, because whenever you have your chief aim, or when you awaken your chief aim, you have this thing called an antheos, which is like this internal divine power. It's like characterized as this divine inspiration that comes from within, and it builds a fire that continues to burn. So for those of you who feel like you're on purpose, or you feel like you know your telos and what your chief aim is, do you feel that, or do you get that sense of like a fire within you when you're doing what your purpose is? Does anyone feel that? Yeah. Or you've had, maybe if you don't feel like it's happening majority of the time, you at least have maybe had like glistening little moments of when it's happened. So that's why I'm really big on, when we talk in our maximum growth classes, in our group coaching, I'm really big on feeling. Because if so often when people are going about trying to figure out what their telos is, what their purpose is, so many times we're looking on the outside to figure out, what do I want to do with my life? But we're actually not focused on how do we feel when we're doing what we are with our life, because that's going to give you the greatest amount of feedback to let you know whether you're doing something that's purposeful or not. Your body is your barometer for that. That's what you want to be listening to, because it's going to give you. So does everyone get that? You feel those moments that it comes on? So I remember when I was growing up, I didn't really like, I had an idea that I wanted to be a teacher. Like I had this concept of being a teacher, but I didn't know how that might look. And when we're just trying to fumble through like what to do, my older sister, she's 12 years older, she said, Tanya, why don't you you've got a caring nature about you. Why don't you go do nursing? And I was like, sure, I'll go do that. She was a nurse. She'd been nursing. She still is a nurse, like 30 something years later, she's still doing the same profession. And so I tried. And I just remember after about 4 or 5 years, I started to feel, the beginning, I really loved it. I really loved caring. I loved sitting beside on someone's bedside and just asking them why they're here, what's going on. I liked having those really personal, like deeper levels of conversation with people that you don't necessarily get in your, when some people are really sick and really, in a vulnerable moment, they become really real. And I really loved those moments. And I could feel something wake up inside of me, but then there was a lot of other parts of me that was really dead. Like I still remember getting in my car one day driving and going, I would rather like crash than go to work today. And that's when I started to go, okay, something's really not okay in your mind to feel like this is the extent that you would go to avoid working. Maybe you could look at a different career. So I started to kind of delve into where I wanted to go, and ended up going down the path of counseling, and here I am. But it definitely feels like I wouldn't say 100% of the time, all the time, because that would not be true. But majority of the time there is this like energy within me. And at the end of a client session, or at the end of a class, or the end of, if I get a message from someone and we have a little interaction, there's definitely an energy that runs through me, which is why sometimes I have this like no-go zone of work past like 9 or 10 p.m. because if not, I just can't seem to sleep because the energy runs through me. This is a bit too much. And then I want to wake up early. So I have this like energy that runs through me. So I want you to think about in your life then, when have been the moments where you've had the most amount of energy running through you? Like, what have you been doing that's had that anthos, that the fire within? let's run through. So if you want to share in the chat section, or you can unmute yourself if you like and share what are the moments that light you up the most, like literally light you up on fire the most. So Barbara says that when she feels that ends the flow, which is definitely, there's like a flow state with it, because flow is like energy. So you're going to feel the energy that runs through you. So what are you doing when you have that? Linda said teaching art and creativity.
This might be a bit vague and ambiguous, but for me it's learning,
Mm-hmm.
learning about certain things, but I can just start to digest material and just sit there and be like, oh God. Once I start reading,
Yeah.
I'm just alive.
And is that maybe what drew you into becoming a doctor? Because you're pretty much in a learning phase for a decade, or longer.
It is. Certainly my interests have changed, but learning has never. I think everybody likes learning, so it's a bit sort of. I suspect everyone likes learning. Might be a
I think
assumption.
maybe in this group, yes, because self-development and growth comes with a desire, a drive to learn. But there are definitely people out there that don't have a value on learning. They're like, they'd definitely rather stay the same. But yeah, you can see that you light up when you learn on certain topics. So it'd be interesting to find out what the certain topics are, and then start to kind of, either focus more on that, and then figure out what your purpose and telos is from there. David says having conversations that you don't want to end, but you want to look at what the content of conversations are. 7-8.
Yeah, sorry. I have two things. One is, like David, for me, learning is very high. I can get up at 2:30 at night, in the morning over here India time. And if I have to attend a session, I'll attend a session, even if it is 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'll get up. So I know my learning is very high. I don't miss a session. I'm very consistent. I'll be there dot on time, 10 minutes in, even before the session starts. But I also enjoy what I find when you said you light up and you feel that moment. I was, before getting into this profession of being trying to be establish myself as a facilitator, I was earlier as an interior designer. And what lighted me up was when I had these ideas in my mind and they all started conceptualizing, and you could see the whole design of the layout of the house and of the interiors coming together. And my highest moment is when I see the owners walk through the house and, give you the compliment. This is amazing. This is what I wanted. This is exactly what I wanted. That just gives me the goosebumps. I can feel all the blood gushing right up to my cheeks right now also.
Yeah, I can feel it, because when you share that, even Alex has done a heart on there. Like, I even feel it in my body. When you're sharing it, I feel it in my body, and I'm like all tingly and getting goosebumps when you share it. It's like there's something in that because if it lights you up, it's going to light other people around you up as well.
Yeah, but I don't follow that profession because in my head, I have driven it like there are too many drawbacks to it. There are too many challenges to it. It's too much of hard work. It takes me away from my family. But as a facilitator, it lets me stay with my family, gives me that freedom that I can travel, which I want to do. Go any place, travel, stay at any place, travel different locations, and still do my coaching, still facilitate.
And I wonder, like, because sometimes the outer interior, of someone's house, it's like, how do you apply that to someone's interior mind and make it ordered and more orderly and make it feel more beautiful inside? So then when they're in their mind, they have more clarity. So it's like just taking an exterior design and putting it interior into someone's mind. So kind of same, but a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have Carmel said, when I'm in sync with someone and I'm in the situation. Alex has said, one of my moments is when I travel and I've walked almost nonstop for 12 hours for days. Christina's has the same for you, same as well. Paula's for talking to forward-thinking people. Nicole is transformational work with clients, facilitating workshops, learning about human potential, transformation, conversations with people about human potential and transformation as well. Alan said, what I thought was a brilliant business idea and started building the business. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but it got me nearly into bankruptcy. These days, it's nature. It's all feedback, right? Like we want to use, sometimes it's what, like, if you're kind of still stuck on what to do and what your telos is, sometimes having a list of what it's not is equally as important as what it is, because what it's not can kind of give you more guidance. Okay, well, we're going to give more clarity into the direction where you want to go. So sometimes unpacking what you don't want and writing down what you don't want will help give you clarity as well. Kelly said learning and sharing knowledge helps people in tangible ways, helping people become aware of economic situations, helping them plan that they want to be in 5 to 10 years' time. Marcy is facilitating personal transformation, so opening heart, gratitude and love. Barbara is also teaching music and creativity. Andy's teaching and facilitating. Paula's also music, but I'm not sure how to properly connect the dots yet. That's okay. You got to do it. You'll figure out a way. It's more like I call it like a post-it note experience, where you get all the post-it notes of the things that you've done in your life that have woken those inspirational, that enthusiasm in your body. And you want to post-it note somewhere, like you've got a blank wall, and every time you think about something new, you want to post-it note it, put it up on your wall. And then over time, you'll have this inspiring and energizing, like dots essentially on your wall that you then have to start connecting and bringing together, because there's your body is giving you constant feedback to what your telos is. It's just about being able to listen to your body, put the connections together to figure out what it is for you. All right, interesting people. All right, so do you know that Picasso said that the meaning of life is to find your gift and the purpose of life is to give it away? So we say that again. Yeah. So the meaning of life is to find your gift and the purpose of life is to give it away. So sometimes we're so focused and like what our purpose is, but our purpose is to just go find a purpose. So I started to think about this a lot, over the, the last month of kind of knowing this topic was coming on and what we're going to do. And Nicole says, I love that. It's like, what would be more important than finding what your purpose is? What would be more important? It's like, making money. But then if we're making money that it's not really something that we love doing, it's kind of like, for what reason? So I know that like it can take a long time. When I've worked with people to figure out what their purpose is, sometimes people can get it straight away and they're like on a mission, they're ready to go. And for other people, it can take, there's layers. What we're kind of talking about with 7 before we started in our before chat of class. It's like sometimes we have these like layers of like fear, or we have layers of things that we've subordinated around, or we've had other people's, for example, opinions on top of us, or society, what we think we should be doing. And we've got all these layers on top of us. And so it's almost like impossible for us then to discover what our purpose is, because sometimes we're not even being ourselves. And so some people are so struggling to even know who they are, to let alone then discover it. So then they don't know who they are. They're not being themselves. They're pleasing other people and trying to, fit into what society wants them to be. And then like, but I'm on a path to find my purpose. I want to find my purpose. What is it? What is it? What is it? Well, first of all, let's just like get back connected with you. Because if you have to know you really well to then figure out what your purpose is. So does anyone feel that way? Sometimes it's like, hang on, I don't really even know me yet. Like I'm on the discovery of me first before I really go on the discovery of my purpose. Is anyone at that Maybe Christina is like, yeah. So in that kind of phase, it's like, I'm still kind of figuring out what I want. Pavel's like, yeah, it's like, let me figure out who I am first and then go and figure. It's like, so just know that if you're in that stage, then this content will be really inspiring and really great for you in the future. First and foremost, do the things that I was working with a client today. She's in a particular industry that has kind of molded her to be a particular persona that she hasn't really loved, and she doesn't really want to continue to do that anymore. And one of the questions I asked, well, what do you like? What do you actually want to do? And her answer was like, I've got no idea. I don't even know what I like. So it's like, okay, so let's just go on a discovery of like, do things, test and learn, figure out the things, try different things to figure out who you are and what you like, and then come back to discovering what your purpose is when you have a true solid foundation of who you are. Alan said, yep, no clear purpose at the moment. And then I would, if you're not really clear, sometimes it can be helpful to just go back into that discovering who you are phase. Because for Alan, for example, you said before, you really like nature. But it's like, oh, well, then I wonder if you can figure out what it is about nature that you love and what part of nature you love and get really connected in with that. And then maybe it's figuring out how do you build a business around nature, because that's more congruent for who you are. For example, Linda said, especially when I have a lot of loads of shifts, that questions who I am now. Because it's so interesting when people come in to say personal development for the first time and they're really discovering who they are, or they're still figuring out who they are. You can change a lot in the first, period of time when you do the self-development work. True. If people go back to, if I go back to when I was like, for my first before my first breakthrough experience, I was like super, super shy. I would have like panic attacks. So I'd have to go to like a social event and I would be driving and I'd get like white knuckles because I wouldn't want to go, and I'd be driving and have to stop. My partner at the time, he'd have to like pry my fingers off the steering wheel car, get me out, put me in the passenger seat and drive me home because I couldn't even go out to a social event with our friends. So it was such a debilitating at times experience that it was just like, so if you then said to me, well, your purpose is to go and share your, what you're going to learn and your knowledge with people, I'd be like, hell no, that's not going to happen. So which is why I spent a solid year applying the Demartini method, like a lot. And so that I would clear a lot of the internal chatter first, and then I'd get more clarity in terms of what I wanted to do. So know that sometimes, especially when you subordinate, if you feel like you do a lot of shoulds and you feel like you walk on eggshells according to other people, you hold back what you want to say, then I would go down that self-discovery. We have lots of classes in maximum growth for that as well. So Pamela said, I used to, then I found my calling. Now at the next stage, realizing that I'm not on purpose. That's okay. It's just evolution. It's an evolution.
Can I?
Lilia.
Hi guys. Hi Tanya.
Hello.
I was contemplating on this idea. It's been a while ago. So I'm finding that we are living on purpose regardless, anytime, any moment, because if you're looking from the point of values, like what John says, like, or whatever, the value determination and the hierarchy of the value, maybe it's unconsciously, but we're still living on purpose.
Is that really true? Because what happens if you're subordinating and you're doing what you think the outside world wants of you? Are you living according to your own highest value in that moment?
Well, if we are doing the value determination, like, I mean, there could be conflict, there is a conflict within, but at the same time, the life demonstrates what is our values. We might think, or I might think that something is different, but the life will demonstrate what is values, right?
Okay, well, I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to disagree on something in terms of where the statement that you're always living according to your highest value. First of all, always is a polarized language to say that you are always in every moment living it, yet sometimes we do things for other people, not for us. So then in that moment, you wouldn't be. Sometimes you are careful what you have to share because you don't want to upset the person around you. So therefore, you're not living in your values in that moment. Sometimes we have to, we raise kids and we've got to go do stuff for them because you need to, but that's living because we of looking after another human being, but isn't necessarily, I say our highest value. I think when we have emotional stuff on top of us, we can end up not living according to what we're truly here and our true purposes, because of all this noise that we have around. So I truly believe that sometimes with some people, they're required to do the work first, and then their values can show more once they've done the work.
So when we do the value determination process, then, and obviously the way I understand how John teach it is you're doing determine 3, the main one, or what your life is demonstrating. And if you are subordinating to someone's value and the life is demonstrating it, how would you do that process then? So that's what
you would clear the whoever you're subordinating to. You would apply the Demartini method on them. So whatever unresolved dynamic you have between them, you stop doing life for them. Then you awaken whatever is inside of you, and you don't fear doing it. And then when you go back to redo your values, maybe after 3 months of applying the work on yourself and clearing your emotional baggage, and you redo your values will show more clearly about what's really true for you.
That is still this is what every time when I do the value, when I did the training, right? So that's what for me was unclear, because even when I was saying to John, I want to do the business, but he says, what's your life demonstrate? So my thoughts, or whatever, I want to do the service, but my life demonstrate, it's I'm looking after the kids. And then he keeps saying then it's your values. But so how would you say that? So I feel like there is a conflict within me. So, and then.
So I wonder, are you doing the kids because you feel like that's your subordinate? Are you subordinating to society? Are you feeling like you have to take care of the kids because no one else is going to do it? Is it you genuinely feel enthusiastic, you feel inspired, you wake up in the morning and go, I can't wait to look after my kids? You have energy at the end of the day after you've looked after your kids all day?
Look, this is interesting this is a very interesting question, because at this moment, you moved in so in this moment, I would say all my thoughts or all my actions toward the learning and business right around the business. Even now I'm at home, I'm this is part of my business, but the kids are in the room. But on subconscious level, I have to make sure that okay, I know that they're room, I know what they're doing, I'm fine with that. But when I did this work since the childhood, basically I come up that everything what I was doing in my life was towards the kids. But I wouldn't say that I'm enthusiastic about it. I don't like to sit with them and play, you know what I mean? It's important for me that I'm in charge. I know what they're doing.
I know, because what I hear, Lilia, is because what we want to remember that our body is our best barometer for our purpose. You're going to have enthusiasm that lights you up within when you do what you're here to do, what you're delivering, your soul's guidance, your soul's purpose, what your calling is. You're going to feel that in your body. And maybe the kids are what you think you should do, not what you love to do. So I would consider potentially doing some work around your children. I'm not sure
I
how
did
much.
a lot. Look,
I know.
Yes, it's just come up. It's not, for me, it's important. If I say, okay, if something wrong with the kids, I drop everything and I run. So they are important. And at the same time, what I'm doing is important. So I'm inspired with all this stuff, right? All the trainings, facilitating or teaching. But at the same time, the kids are always in Bamba. It's if I have to choose, it would be the kids, for example, in emergency.
And then once they're old enough?
Well, if they're old enough and I know that they're living, that's what probably I'm heading once they are living there independently, they don't need me, then obviously it's.
So is it then building your business towards that end goal that they'll eventually spread their wings?
Well, that's what I'm doing. Like in my plan, that's what I'm preparing myself, like, because I retrain myself, right, fully on, and within the subject that I like, or what I would like to do. But then at the same time, this moment, they are most important. Like you know, I will drop everything.
So then
I move,
can you
everything,
because
I'm
then
not enthusiastic.
Okay, so it sounds like you've got an obligation that you still have to look after the kids for another period of time before you can go and do your purpose.
Well, I'm still doing it, but
to the degree that you want to do it.
Yeah, to the degree, yeah, because I'm still doing my purpose. Like I do more individually, like, you know, it's like 50-50, but in terms of the most important at this point would be kids' priority. If it's emergency or something with the health or something like, you know.
Okay, and are you okay with that or not?
Well, I come in term like when I'm realizing, but when I'm realizing this is like I've been prepared myself in my past all the way, like, you know, when I was creating the business or my financial back then, everything was around my kids, for kids. But at the same time, I wouldn't say that I'm so much enthusiastic about it. Like I love to do it.
I get it. So then Linda has suggested that, but can you link your purpose to your kids? So maybe you can make the link between the two, and that will help to maybe create, it would be more linking your kids to your purpose, because then you want to create some enthusiasm around your children.
I think I did it also. It's just for me.
I know, but if you do, you shift it. And so, but you're still saying you don't have enthusiasm around your children, which you can create enthusiasm. You just have to link it enough times to your purpose. So anyway, it's something I just want you to ponder it and think about it.
Yeah, it's just my question was specifically into when I was pondering on this stuff, and I was doing linking before as well. Is just, and that's how I probably come to the term in terms of, yeah, this is what it is for me. And part of, I guess, business, it's also part of my baby, like, or my legacy that I want to create to the second half of my life. Because the kids are gone, they don't belong to me, right? Like in terms of, like they would be independent. But in terms of back to the question, when I thought about that, do we actually like finding the purpose, which is, I find that this is one of our main things that we have to do as well, like not just living on purpose, but find first the purpose, and then like similar what you said before with who was the author of this quote. But again, I come to the point we are all living on purpose.
Well, does let's have a discussion. I see Alex, you got your hand up, which is cool. But or does everyone agree that you live on your purpose all the time? You're always on purpose? Does everyone agree with that or not? Maybe you can put it in the chat section, or just give me a yes, no. Nope. Is anyone a yes? Just curious.
Yeah, yes.
Yes. Every day, every moment.
I think you're always exactly where you need to be, but you're not always on purpose.
Yeah,
it could be also depends what you define as a purpose, or maybe our actions lead to our purpose if you define it in a way of the purpose should be something like, you know, a certain form. But if we're saying of the highest value out, like our highest value, our telos or purpose, and our values can change. So if before for me was my financial is
okay, but Lily, I just got to pause for a second. So if you were living on purpose every moment, why would you go look for your purpose? Why would you want to go and discover it?
Before, because
no, but no, listen, hear the question. If you're living on purpose in every moment, why would you even want to go and discover what your purpose is? Do you hear me?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I can also ask the rest of everyone else. Like, if you, it's a great question, isn't it?
Because before I was confused, I wasn't aware of all this, the way how it's been created. So I had the internal conflict, and also I had that subordination, or the things what was imposed on, or like, you know, the belief or the culture. So I wanted, when like obviously in my case specifically, like at some moment, because probably I was subordinated to other people.
For sure.
Right. And I was living on my purpose, but I was not accepting it because I was subordinating unconsciously without being aware.
Okay, and then so if we pause on that, and we also think about then say chronic fatigue. So so I'm not sure if you know what the psychosomatic thought is around chronic fatigue, but is living according to other people's values, and you're not actually living your life. So would people with chronic fatigue be on purpose in every moment? Well, they wouldn't be, because they're not living according to their values. So therefore, is it just them, that subgroup of people that don't live according to their values or are on purpose every day?
Well,
So,
I have created like the whole journey for me was turning point, because when I had created chronic fatigue or symptoms of chronic fatigue, it's like it was different things. But when I analyzed that the reason why I got the chronic fatigues, but because I was living on like I wasn't aware that that's what it's supposed to be, or I was living according to my highest value, but I was subordinating. I thought I wasn't accepting myself and was so that it should be different way. The conflict within me brings the catastrophic kind of events.
Yeah, then that shows if any of us have conflict in ourselves around what our purpose is or what our values are, then we have to resolve the conflict in order for us to know what our true purpose is. So it shows, I mean, Andy's made a really great distinction, which is I see the distinction between living by your highest values and living by your purpose, which is different. So living by your highest values, what you spend your time, money, energy today, right now. But living your purpose is a future thing. It's like, what do you want to achieve for your future? What impact do you want to be making? What influence do you want to have on society? What income do you want to be creating for yourself for the future? It's like having a future end in mind. That isn't really just it's about your gift that you want to give out to the world, but it's also about what impact you want to make on humanity, whether humanity for you is just this, your family, or whether humanity is like, the population. So it's about finding a vehicle to go and express that out into the world.
Oh, yeah.
So Lily, I'm just going to pause for a second. So I've got Julian who said, yes, I would love to hear more about that what the distinction means. So where's Andy? Where are you?
Hey, Tanya.
Hey, Andy, there you are.
Love these conversations.
Aren't they? Super interesting. Yeah. So tell me, what are your thoughts?
Well, I've thought about this one a lot, as in this community, as you do. But my thoughts are, if you're living by your highest values, if you think about every moment of the day, you're going to make a decision, and it's going to be the one that you value the most. And so that's what I look at, living by your highest values. So if I hadn't eaten and I'm starving right now, I value food more than I value teaching in this moment, though. But I see my purpose as teaching and facilitating. And so slightly different, but the value right now might be a survival value of I need to eat because I'm hangry, versus, I'm going to teach and facilitate kind of thing. But small distinction.
Similar to what Lilia was saying in terms of being able to say, well, her value in the moment is family or looking after kids, or whether it be, going to a job, if that's what you also do. But then your purpose can be something deeper and more meaningful that you're focused on.
Yeah, 100%. And then the purpose, is something to expand out further. And but then in each moment, you still live by your highest values. But like what you're saying about the purpose, your purpose is kind of your contribution to humanity.
But you'd somehow then want your highest values to line up with your purpose, because
100%,
the struggle Lily is having is there's an internal conflict, because spending time with the kids or looking after the kids when her purpose is here and she's having to do the daily stuff to take care of them, she doesn't see the connection yet. And so then she feels like maybe that's not as fulfilling as it is over here. But Lilia, just hold a second.
And I agree with what you're saying about doing the work on that piece, because let's say that if I'm subordinating someone in my life and I'm infatuated with that person, right now I value pleasing that person more than doing my purpose right now. And so if I clear that person, now my highest value is not trying to, live up to that person and please that person. Now my highest value might be clearer more on the purpose side of things. And so I think that's a piece of it as well. The more that you do the work on, the people that you infatuate with or whatever it is, the more clear it becomes, the more clarity kind of comes to it.
Yeah, which is why sometimes people have to do some solid work for years, sometimes of like solid work before they can hear, because there's also an inner, it's like an inner calling or an inner knowing of what your purpose is. And so it's really impossible to hear that when you're outside on the outside world, hearing what everyone else wants you to do rather than, you know, what you want to do. So thank you, Andy. So if we also have a look at, you know, for example, you know, when a bee is born, it wakes up, you know, whatever it does, it's like, it's a bee, and its purpose is to go and pollinate. So it takes the pollen and it just by default pollinates other flowers, and then it goes and takes the honey, you know, to make honey. So it does that, and it's a bee its whole life. We have a fork is a fork. It's made into a fork. You use it as a fork. It continues to be a fork until it gets recycled in some way, shape, or form. But for us, our purpose is somewhat evolving. You know, one of the greatest pressures I see in today's younger generation is this pressure to just have one purpose and to stick to that one purpose for almost like their entire life, and to be very successful at what their purpose is from a very young age, because they've looked up to people like the Facebook guy, and, you know, seen things like that, where all people on Instagram, and they've just been able to like make, you know, amazing money and become successful at a young age. So there's a lot of pressure. But the thing is, as we shift in our values, as we shift in what's important to us, our purpose will also shift. As we have life changes, so we birth, deaths, marriages, they're all going to also change what our purpose is. So we have to be flexible and adaptable, that our purpose is going to change and morph over time. So does anyone feel that it should be more rigid, and it's like you got to have one purpose in that for the rest of their life? Does anyone feel that pressure, or it's like they're okay if it changes? It's okay if it changes or not? Yeah.
But Tanya, is exactly what I'm saying. Sorry that I'm, because like we are living every time in a definition of how the Demartini says to us as well, like value, highest value, and it's a purpose. Like in the concept, if you're talking about the value, which is now is important. Like last week, for me was important to watch the news, because I wanted to figure out what's going on.
But that's not your purpose, Lilia. We're talking about what your purpose is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm talking about from the definition of if the value is the same as a purpose, or your telos, as what Demartini says. That's what I'm saying. Like, yes, if you put the purpose is in the future, I agree, but the purpose comes from the value, and value comes from the void, the biggest void. And then it's temporary, can change if it's something shift, like change, like in your environment. So as you're saying, values, purpose changing, right?
So your purpose does change, because yes, you evolve, and who you are as a person, as you learn new things and you take in new information, and life changes, the outside world changes, you change relative to the outside world, your purpose can also change.
I think the purpose change when your value change, and when you fulfill your voids, if the value come from the voids. So my purpose changing, like my void was to make sure that I provide proper family, or like looking after properly after my kids, because that was my void. I didn't have it when I felt or perceived that I didn't have when I was a child. So now it's shifting. So I'm more now can go and serve the world, because obviously the kids are growing.
So Kelly said that I don't think my purpose changes, because I know my values do. So her values change, but her purpose doesn't change. So hence I do the linking exercise, and I suppose my purpose theme doesn't change. So does anyone feel that their purpose theme hasn't really changed, and it's maybe the form of their values or the way they express it changes? Andy, you got it? Mm-hmm. So if we have a look at, okay, so Vanessa said, can we have more than one purpose, i.e. caring for family as well as teaching clients about health? 100%, because you can also see that it'd be teaching about health to your family. And that's how you care about, I know Vanessa, that's how you care about your family, is you do amazing cooking for your family and you take care of their health and look after their health. So there's a synergy between what you do with your family and then also what you do in a business and purpose as well. Semi says 100% the form changes, but what I'm doing with it stays the same. And Linda says it just evolves to a deeper meaning and more clarity. So if we also then have a look at, one of the things one is we want to define what our purpose is, like what purpose is. So we've had a look at its like what telos is in terms of having a purpose and meaning. And then, in order to know that, once we figure out who we are, we discover who we are, then we discover what our purpose is, we want to put a question around it. Because if we're not questioning it in some way, then if we don't have a question that we're focused on to solve, then what's the point of our purpose? We've discovered it. Now, what do you do with it? So, for example, there was a psychologist. He spent majority of his years, 50 years, exploring a question, which is, it's like child development. So he was wanting to understand like how children develop and how they develop in different stages. And then he wanted to then understand what those stages are and define those stages in his career. And so that's what he spent a majority of his life, is focused on solving or answering that one question. Einstein, for example, had the apple fall from the tree, and then it was kind of like that. And then had this like, how is gravity, and influenced by the moon, and how is it all influenced in together? And it's kind of like having this, deeper question. It's like, what is gravity, and how does it influence and impact our world today? And then being able to create a formula to describe that. And so if you think about your purpose, if you're clear on what your purpose is, what's the question or what's the focus that you have around your purpose? Like what question are you wanting to answer? Has anyone thought about that?
You mean what, like I ask myself, like, why is it important for me? Or
no, it's not. It's like, so what's the question that you want? Like you have a purpose, whatever that is, you're focused on teaching or learning. It's like, but what's the purpose of that? Like, what's the question that you're going, because you want to solve what problem? Because you want to learn or understand about what particularly, because you want to, create a method, like for example, Demartini, right? He, one of the questions that he has, it's like, how do I create a methodology that helps solve people's problems at infinite scales? Doesn't matter what they're going through, that there's one framework or series of questions that could help resolve emotion. And that's what he focused on. That's what he spent his time focused on learning. It wasn't just learning for the sake of learning. It was learning for a purpose to then put it into a process that would then deliver it out to the world. So the question, so you've got your purpose, you know what it is, you get feedback, you know what your body is letting you know, but what's the purpose? Like what are you going to do with that purpose? What's the focus of that purpose? What's the question you're going to ask around your purpose that's going to give you guidance and more laser focus? Because a lot of people have value on learning, right? So everyone wants to learn. But what are you learning for? For what? To solve what problem?
Can you learn for yourself? Like,
of course. But for what reason? For what purpose?
So that.
Oh, yep.
So that I could be in my, or probably, I don't know if that's coming from something that needs to be worked on, because if I if I've learned so much and I treat myself like I'm learned and I've learned so much, I'm more educated, so I'm more intelligent.
But that's about you. So then it's like, then we want to go out into the outside, because our purpose is, you know, our purpose is to discover our purpose, so what lights us up most, and then our purpose is, or our the meaning is to go and give it out to the world. And so it's like, okay, so how do you then frame your, like, the question that you can then learn and go help solve people's problems in the outside world? So it's not just about you and you becoming more intelligent, you becoming more learned. Yeah, like for example with Demartini, that was a part of his void getting fulfilled, because he feels smarter and brighter because he knows more and he becomes a walking encyclopedia, for example. But then he has delivered it in a way that now serves humanity at a greater scale. So it's like you want to do what feels fulfilling, but then how are you going to put it out into the world?
But can it be okay that you're not very sure of what your purpose is at this moment? Probably it can come to you later in life.
Well, if you have that perception, it could. But it takes work. Like, it takes work to uncover what your purpose is. It takes focused work. Like if we ask the group, like, how much time have you sat down and gone, I just want to just do everything it takes in order to discover what my purpose is? Has anyone? I did it in 2000 and I did it when was Bonnie born? 2017. Bit weird because I started this way for a long time, but it was like, I really want more and more clarity. Like, I wanted to have a clearer vision of what I wanted my purpose to be and more certainty around it. So I spent a solid year like working on, I went and attended 4 breakthroughs in 4 different countries. I did like heaps of introspection, lots of questioning, lots of like reviewing my like life review of like what was like, what made me enthusiastic, what kind of got me going, and what clients I saw that got me going. It took a solid year before at the very end of the year that I came out going, okay, I've got more of a guiding like light in where I'm going. But I not 100%, I didn't wake up every day and go like, oh, I know what I'm exactly doing every single day. Like, it's almost like a continual refinement. So it's like, if you want to, if this thing is so important to you, you have to be willing to put the time, energy, you know, money, dedication into actually uncovering what it is.
So
because
what are the
uncovering it is the point, because it's like we're born knowing it, and we just get all this stuff put on top of us and we actually forget what it is. So it's almost like the remembering that we have to awaken.
So what are the quality questions that I can ask myself in order to uncover what my purpose is and gain more clarity as to where I want to go and what do I want to achieve? What do I want to do with all this learning? Since learning is very high for me right now, what do I want to do with this? That's a very, very important question. What you brought it up, it's really struck with me. Like, yeah, I'm learning all this like crazy, but what for?
Yeah. So then that's the question every day you wake up, but what for? But what for? But what for? Because the brain has this amazing ability that when you ask it a question, it's like an organ, you know, it's like an organ that wants to like find it and resolve it for you. So it will start processing it for you. And then the universe has a way of showing you signs, like literal signs, like on a street sign or whatever, and says, this is your purpose or whatever. So, or you'll meet a person and you'll have a conversation and you'll wake up and go, oh my God, like that is it. And so you'll get feedback from the outside world and your body will show it when you start asking the question. But you have to ask it every day, day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, to uncover and figure out what it is.
Could it also be, sorry?
I wanted to share a question with you in regards to your question. I've been doing this exercise for a month. So I ask every morning, what gave my life the most meaning and purpose yesterday? So I'm asking this question. I've been doing that for over a month. And the beauty of this question is that you don't intellectualize the question. It's something that you need to feel to be able to answer. It's not like I did my kids' lunch, or it's more the meaning and purpose. So the more you do it, the more clarity you get on the patterns and things that you see consistently. It's been very helpful and enlightening for me. So you want to try that? I just do it on my phone, or you can do it on paper. Every morning, what gave the most meaning and purpose to my life? I
assume that over the month, Alex, you'll have similar things that show up. It's like your gratitude list. If you review your gratitude list, you'll find similarities. You say the same thing, I'm grateful for, or maybe you go back and review what your meaning and purpose was. You start to find that there are similar things you say over and over and over again.
Yes, in a conversation, for example, if I have a 1 hour conversation with a person, there's going to be one part of the conversation that it meant the most to me. So I put that. So it's not generic, it's very specific, and it has to do with the feeling too.
Yeah,
so it has to come from that space. So if you want to try that.
Helen Keller said, the most beautiful things in the world are not seen or heard, but they're felt with the heart. So we have to feel into it every day. It's not something that you're logically going to process and go, well, that's what it is. That's going to give me the best financial return, and that's going to give me, the best outcome in my, social media, algorithm likes or whatever. It's like, hang on, you got to do something with heart. Yeah. Heart is magnetic. You'd rather go and do that because it has a radiating, expansive dynamic to it than because you logically thought that was for your purpose. Because also there's if we have to logically rationalize our purpose, it's not our purpose, because it'll be such a knowing inside of you that you don't question it. And you don't even, for example, the individual I was working with today, we were looking at certain things that they liked, what they didn't like, and what kind of lit them up. And one of the things they said was about making beautiful, it's currently completely off the track of what they're currently doing, but it's to make beautiful spaces in people's homes. And as soon as she said it, it's like goosebumps from head to toe. I'm goosebumpy. She starts crying on the other side of the world. And it's like, there was something like resonant and palpable when she said it. And so that is something that we want to follow when we find our purpose. It's not something that you then have to go and rationalize. It's like, because that's going to be, helpful for my profile, or it's going to, leverage. It's like, or because my family's going to really admire me for doing it. We're not thinking of any of that. It just has such a heart to it that you can't question it. That's what you want to find.
There's a lot to take in today.
So much. David, did you want to share? I've noticed did you want to share something as well?
I was just going to say that I postulate that a lot of the why underneath the purpose for people is to bring people out of the perception of suffering, and or to bring people to experience or express love. I think they're probably two things that are a major undercurrent for a lot of people as far as why they do what they do. It's to do with bringing them into love and out of suffering.
Yeah, we definitely want, everyone's going to have, everyone's going to resonate potentially with different things, but definitely one, you want to have a love for your purpose and share that with the world, which is pretty cool. So, team, what an interesting discussion. Tell me, is there anyone in the group that would still love to, maybe if you've got a question around telos, around purpose, that you would love to ask, to know? Is there anything else that you would like to discuss about, if you don't mind running over just by a few minutes on the topic?
Tanya.
Ellen.
Hi. I found what Lilia was saying, I was really resonating with that. But my question still in that topic is, where does this concept of everything serves a purpose, where does that fit into the topic of values and purpose? Because everything, even if we subordinate to someone, or if we don't speak our truth in the moment, normally, from what I know, is people say everything serves us. Where does that fit?
So if I'm going to throw a spanner in the works. Is that okay, team? Is that all right? So I'm going to get you to ponder something. Okay. So most of the time when people come to, say, for example, a coaching session, or they come to a group event where they're going to transform their thinking. Majority of the population, if you have conversations with them, a majority of the population are seeing that things disserve them. They're challenged by them. They're emotional about certain topics worldwide or within their family. And so most people are having this disconnect between what happens to them and there's a blessing and a service to them. And so therefore, when we say, well, everything serves, is just talking to the majority of population who've never heard of the concept, for us then to start to awaken, gosh, everything does serve. But let's say that you've been doing this work for a period of time and now you have a deeper understanding that actually everything serves and it disserves equally just as much. So for us to turn around then and put it into context to say, yeah, everything serves, well, actually that's a lopsided misperception of the world, because no, everything serves and disserves equally at the same time. That's what the truth is.
Interesting. Thanks for that.
We just want to think about, so when we want to think about what we want to think about what we learn, and we want to process it, and we want to go, so how does this fit into universal principles? Does it fit in? Just because I'm taught something, does it believe it is actually true? And so you want to question it. And that's one of the questions, is going, whoa, even Lisa's like, I love that. Wow, I love that everything serves and disserves, because it completely changes the way that you view the world. And also it's like the level, like you want to teach, if someone has never even heard of disserving or serving, you want to go, okay, first of all, teach them that level. Then once they're at the level, then go and teach them that next level. You can't go out to the big wide world and say everything serves and disserves, because most of the time they go, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, this is too far out for them. So you teach them at the first level. They get that. They're like, oh yeah, I got that now. Because now you guys, I feel like this is going to be one of those turning points in your life. You're like, oh man, something just really shifted. And you're like, oh man, okay, cool. Now I'm ready for the next level, which is everything serves and disserves equally. So you're going to filter the world differently. So you just want to question things.
It seems like there is the limitation of the language then, because if the maximum growth on the support and challenge, which like serve and disserves, so how would you call it? It's still serving or whatever. What's the
but maximum growth, the reason why I called my company Maximum Growth, because maximum growth occurs at the border of support and challenge, at the border of service and disservice. That's where we grow to our greatest degree.
So in a way, it's a serve us in terms of the maximum growth, or which is not the language. So it's kind of limitation of the language itself, because how we call it service. And so that's why we say, okay, this is still serving us because we are growing.
But really, we would want to look at where it serves and disserves us in order for us to grow.
Yeah, with the context or context.
The context, yeah. All right.
Tanya.
Warren, yes.
So I also, now that we're like looking at the highest values, we're looking at the purpose. Can you also explain again how mission fits into that?
So mission is, so everyone, so first of all, let's look at purpose. So everyone has different, purpose can be shown as like purpose, vision. It's like the end goal in mind. So it's the why do you do what you do? So purpose and vision is the why, like the big focus. Then the mission is what you do. So it's like what are the steps that you're going to do to achieve your vision, to achieve your purpose? So then that becomes your mission, which is your everyday thing that you're focused on to work towards your vision, which is why you want to have a synergy between your voids, whatever you perceive to be most missing, drives your value, what you're currently doing today, focuses then on your vehicle and your mission to where you're working towards, that's ending up in the vision that you're wanting to achieve. So all of that has to be like in synergy with each other in order to make sure that your past is congruent with your future, which is fluent with your past is congruent with your present, and your future is fluent with your current day.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can, if you get a little bit lost, you can just Google like the difference between vision and mission. And there's heaps of examples that you can look at in terms of seeing how people or how companies write the difference between the two, so that you can maybe help to get more clarity within your own writing. Diane has asked, can you share an example of how to apply that new paradigm of disservice? So, okay, so let's say, for example, we have like well, I don't know, maybe that's like, is that going to fit in? Like there was a major crash on the Sydney Harbour Bridge today, and it completely closed down the city in and out over the bridge. And so we might be able to say, well, everything serves. And then you're like, oh, okay. And Diane's like, yep, that affected me. I had to walk over the bridge this morning. Yep. So there was a car accident. It exploded. The car flipped, exploded like it not exploded straight away, but got on fire and ended up being completely on fire. So completely stopped the flow of traffic. So you could look at that and go, okay, it serves me. So how does this serve me? And then you could be so focused on the benefits of how it served you that you could end up finding so many that you've actually missed well, hang on, how did it disserve you? And then you become, sometimes we can swing to be more infatuated with that and go, well, that was so amazing. I got to walk into work and got really fit. And then you've been blind to the fact that it costs you time, it costs you, mileage on your shoes or whatever. Like there was a downside to that experience as well. So you want to be able to look at both sides, the service and disservice of the experience that you went through, rather than just seeing it only as service. So Julian said, how do you know the difference on your purpose and goal-based as a non-resolved trauma or charge? Is the purpose a goal-based on a charge, or can you have a purpose which is not based? It's a little bit tough to tell. Like there's not a, well, let me think about it in terms of maybe I'm just going to think out loud. Is that okay? So so when someone has a trauma and they're focused on like setting a goal around healing a trauma, when they get there and they've finished it, they could then not continue down the same path anymore, because it's like, oh, that's done. I've kind of healed that part. And then I'm onto another purpose that may be in a completely different direction. So it's maybe the direction of purpose would change when the healing has been complete. I'm thinking about a client that I'm currently working with, and they would say that their current form of what they're doing business in is very much about childhood wounds that they're going out to the world and doing their service that's trying to heal their childhood wounds. Very much about wanting to be seen, very much about wanting to like please people in a way. And so their purpose is very much about, I want to be seen out to the world and I want to please people. And so I do wonder, as we've started to work together and as we heal those perceived traumas that they have in their past about their relationship with their dad, and how the dynamic was between their dad and their family, and there's a lot of beatings and things like that. As they resolve that, I wonder whether the vehicle or the form of which their purpose will show up differently, because that's not the reason why they're doing it anymore. They find almost like a deeper purpose to what's important to them, or they might even completely change. I've seen people when they've resolved stuff, they're like, I don't want to do that anymore. It's actually not even meaningful for me anymore. Which is why sometimes it's really scary, because people are like, oh, I don't want to go down there. I don't want to go resolve anything because I'm really comfortable and making income. I've got my status or whatever else it is. And well, if I go and heal any of these things and I'm not who I am anymore, that's uncomfortable, because the unknown is uncomfortable. And so then they don't go and do the work. But I know that for the people that do the work first and they resolve their perceived traumas and their challenges that they've got, it's like you're going to be magnetic when you go and do your purpose. So that's going to be more meaningful. And so it's going to help you generate more money. that's meaningful money as well, not just money for money's sake. So sometimes it's like then going, well, what's the benefit of doing the work to shift things? Can be also really helpful. So does that help? Did that answer the question, Julian?
Yes, it answers, but after you will follow another direction, and if you is the other direction based on another layer of pain, and after you resolve the pain, and you always change, no?
Okay, so if we look at, because essentially the pains are the voids that we talk about. So if you look at the language we normally use, we would say that the voids are the things that the perceived to be most painful that we're then trying to fill in our values. And so what I've noticed is there does get a point where people have resolved. So the pain isn't the driver anymore. That becomes like a purpose, you know, that thing, the saying, which is like, you make your mess your message, you know, that dynamic, or you make your pain your purpose. And so that's why having the vision aligned with your voids becomes really important, because the vision is the thing that drives you in the future. The vision is the thing that is pushing or driving you forward, as opposed to you have your pain point in the past, you fulfill that, now you're on to the next pain point, you fulfill that, your next pain point, then you just always have to have pain points in your past in order to drive you in the future. We call that like lower brain amygdala, you know, driven life, as opposed to a purpose-filled life. So it's about being able to transform that pain into something that's meaningful in the future that you're working and building towards, that becomes me. And that becomes your driver, as opposed to just looking at the past and what's painful back there. So purpose pulling you forward, not pain pushing you. Because you know what, some people, they are really great at like having pain that pushes them. So, you know, they need pain in order to push them, but then it's like you almost have to create more drama and more challenge to continue, you know, more illness, bigger illness, more family troubles, you know, financial troubles, to continue to push you and push you and push you, because that is your purpose, rather than a meaningful vision that becomes your purpose that you're moving towards, or a question that you're wanting to ask that becomes your purpose. So, team. So can your purpose be discover your self-identity, being able to generate income for self and have freedom to do things you like? Of course, like everyone's purpose. I think it was actually the Indian prime minister who said, it was the female one. I don't know her name. I'm trying to think of it. What is it? Anyway.
Indira Gandhi.
Yeah. Indra. She said that, you know, in society, like if you look at a car, every part of the car has a purpose. The nuts and bolts on the car have a purpose. The driver has a purpose. The steering wheel has a purpose. The windshield has a purpose. So it's like every part of the car has its own unique purpose. And without the wheels, it wouldn't drive. Without the driver knowing where to go, it wouldn't go. And it's like every part of that has a purpose that works symbiotically all together, and we have to value what our purpose is. So if we happen to be the nuts and bolts of the car wheel, then love the fact that we're the nuts and bolts. We don't have to, and because sometimes we put purpose as like, you know, the bigger impact you make, you know, the louder you are, the more you're known, that's the biggest, that's the most, you know, that's the most important purpose in the world. But it's not like, I don't care about that kind of stuff. I would rather be the person behind the person that's going out to the world, and me be the influence with them to be able to go and do something that's really meaningful for them and go and make a huge impact with what they do. That's what's meaningful for me. And so it's like, but I don't have a desire to go out and be like the most known. That's not in my voids. It's not in my values. It's not what I see. I still see myself as more of a Philip Carrot, which is like who Warren Buffett, for example, went to learn from finance from. So he was like his mentor. And I kind of like that because Warren Buffett's really known, but people are like, who's that guy? Never heard of him. But he actually was the influencer of a lot of people who went and made some big money around that time. So it's like, we've got to find our purpose, but also be comfortable with our purpose as well, and love the purpose that we are here to go and share without minimizing it relative to the outside world. Andy said, I love that explanation. And so how do you know if it's a fear holding you back from moving forward, the fear of unknown? I mean, we have a regular class in our business classes in Maximum Growth that we do a Clear the Fear. We do it every quarter because it doesn't matter what level you play at. You can be at a global scale level, and you can be at a local scale level. You can just be in the beginnings of starting your business, and each of those you have fears. Doesn't matter what level it is. It's like, I'm working with someone at the moment who has 40 staff. He has like the fear of like sometimes not generating enough money to come through the door. It's the fear of like, he's about to go and start capital raising for his, the next evolution of his business. And it's like a fear of what happens if he gets the, wrong person in and they don't align, or he doesn't get enough money for him to be going and raising. But then that's a different scale or kettle of fish. If you're like starting a business and you're like, gosh, like my fear is like, what happens if I say I say something and I mess it up? Maybe our purpose isn't as complicated as what we think it is. So Lisa said, wow, that's thank you for your insight, Tanya, just what I needed to hear. So Kelly said, are you okay, guys, to go a little bit longer? Are you like, so what's your thoughts around resistance when you're on purpose? Often I make decisions and then life gets a bit crazy. What's the thing? Is it Murphy's Law? Is it the testing thing? Is it called Murphy's Law? Where you're like, okay, I'm setting the agenda. This is what I'm going to do. And then shit just starts to happen. And it tests you. How much do you actually want this? So you're going to be tested on your purpose. It's like, you've put it out there. This is what you want to do. This is what you're about to go and do with your life and your world and what you're set out to do. And it's like, hang on, do you really want this? Because you have to be willing to embrace the pain and pleasure, the support and challenge in the pursuit of something that's meaningful. We could say this is what I want, but then we aren't willing to do the work for it. We want it, but we won't work for it. You have to work for it if you want to create it. So,
Tanya, can I say something, please? Yeah. It's like, I don't even want to say it, but since we've been doing it, my body's been trembling for like the last 45 minutes. Like, don't say it because it's going to disagree. I feel like this isn't me talking, but there's this force. It's like, you've got to say this. I'm like, I don't want to. Like, so without saying the reason why it's coming, is it possible? I love this work. I do. Is it possible that, not that it's wrong, but there's another way of looking at life? That this isn't everything.
To find a purpose, it's not everything.
I'm really conscious about not just starting to talk. I did this conversation with a lady last night. She's an incredibly successful woman, beautiful, doesn't do Demartini work. I feel like I'm going to cry with it. It's so, I know this guy, and he's one of the richest people in Britain, financially. And I can't talk to him in the park sometimes. And he would say, "You're always going on about purpose, aren't you?" And he's like, there isn't one. There is not a purpose. And she said last night, she's like, so why do you want to do this talk? Why do you want to write this book? And I was like, do you want the truth? She said, yeah. I was like, I just want to do it. You're supposed to say, oh, I want to serve, I want to do that. It's like, well, that's what a child would say.
That's the same. What I hear you saying is, it's okay.
I don't have a point of view, by the way. It's just what's coming to my mind.
Yeah, because Albert Camus, he was a philosopher, and he said that life is just absurd. Like, it's like this absurdity that it's just, there's no point to anything. It's like, well, there's no point. Like people try and make there's a point to something, but there's actually no point. So his whole philosophy, if you read about him, he's super interesting, is like, there's just no point to life. And like, I mean, he kind of alludes to like, you know, just like end it because there's no point. It's a little dark and it's a little depressing, but you could lean into that if you want, not lean into that far, but just go there. Well, there is no point, and what's the point? But I know if you had a choice, and you had a choice for saying, but there's no point and there's meaning, majority of people would lean into finding meaning. It's just the toughness of actually going out and searching for what it is, or like trying to discover what it is. That's hard work. And most people are like, it's too hard work, I'm just not going to go and do it. And so that can stop them. But at the end of the day, sometimes if we go back to, like when I go back to when I first decided that I would do counseling, I didn't know why I wanted to do it. I didn't go, I want to do it because I want to serve millions of people or hundreds of people, or I didn't even have service in mind. I was just like, it just felt like the most congruent thing I could do at that particular time. And I was like, I don't know, it just felt like I just had to do it. My body said I had to do it. My decisions led me to go and do it. And I just went and did it. And it was like the best path that could have taken me to lead me into all the other things that happened that put me onto this path. And so sometimes we, in our part of our journey to find what our purpose is that we don't have all the answers just yet, but that's why the feeling, it's like, you know what, I don't know, but I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go with it. So I think
you said that. Thank goodness. Well, it's all right just to say, I just want to do it. I don't care about everything. I don't care. I just want to do it.
Yeah. Is it okay, team? Is it okay just to do it because you feel like it doesn't have to have like some profound meaning for, yeah. I see the relief. God. Okay.
My whole body was just exploding. It's just like, so you know, do you know Indiegogo, the crowdfunding campaign?
No, but tell me.
Massive crowdfunding, one of the biggest crowdfunding platforms in the world. It's massive. And the lady, she's one of the 3 people who run it. She's amazing. She was going through this process. Someone was saying, why do you do it? Why do you do it? And she did it. And then she got to the end and she just almost yelled it. I just want to do it. That's going through me now, so.
Well, I'm glad that you can just lean into just doing it then, David. I don't have a
point of view. I'm just like, is that okay?
It is. Well, you don't have to ask my permission, but you just have to be okay with telling other people that it's okay, that I just want to do it for the sake of doing it. It's like, so often we so want to please other people and give them some profound reason why we're doing what we're doing, and that blah, blah, blah. It's just like, what? Like Alex said, just do it. Maybe Marina said, maybe the meaning comes much later, like much, much later. And I truly believe that. Like sometimes when we do the work, if we look at, and we're going to wrap up in just a minute as well, team, but you know, sometimes when we do the work, sometimes some of the meaning, like if we have a really challenging experience that happens to us, sometimes the meaning doesn't come through until, well, some of the deeper meanings come through after time happens, and then another piece of the puzzle comes in. You're like, oh, now I get it. And so, but it needed to happen, you know, a month or 10 years later after the event happened. And you're like, oh my gosh, there's another piece of the reason why that thing happened. And so sometimes it is like a timing thing, or you know, or Alex is like, maybe the soul hasn't found the words, or the soul hasn't experienced what it needs to experience in order to find what it is or discover what it is that you're here to do. But because we put this time pressure and think, well, we should know it now. What happens if you just let go of that time and go, you know what, I'm going to keep on searching and I'll know when I find it. So I'd love to hear from you, team, that what's been your greatest insight, takeaway, learning for today? So we've discovered telos, we've discovered meaning and purpose. We've talked about enthusiasm and finding something that lights you up and has that fire that is within you. We've talked about doing things with heart. So what for you has been the greatest insight, learning, realization from the session for today? Julina said that the question to ask every day to stay connected to the purpose. Lilia is, that's why I called it we are on purpose in every moment. Christians, that maybe that image, oh yeah, came through. Christian just shared an image. What question do you want to answer with my purpose? Disservice concept was your take home, Ellen. Picasso's quote, which is, you know, your purpose is to find your purpose and your meaning is to give it away. Definitely. David, is that it's okay to know why isn't enough just to want to do something, or that it's okay just to want to do something because it feels congruent rather than lots of other things. Biofeedback is very important. Biofeedback is very important. Let that be your guide. So thank you, team, for coming along for our conversation. So this is something that we do every couple of months. We have a different topic each month. We go through and we just have a conversation. So hopefully it's been enlightening. You can take home with you or walk with you for the rest of the week. A deeper understanding of purpose, what it means to you, and also maybe going on that either self-discovery journey, if that's the stage you're at, or going on the purpose discovery, or it's the question, like, what are you going to do? What's the question you want to solve or you want to focus on to solve? So thank you, team, for coming along. Marina said, trust your guts or your intuition because it's pushing you to your purpose. Amazing. So thank you for coming along for class. I hope you got lots of value. We will have a recording of this if you want to share it with other people because you feel like they would like some information on purpose, then feel free to share this link with other people. We also do have our maximum growth group coaching classes. So if you have a business, you have wanting to level up inside of your business to grow your income, inspiration, and your impact, then come and visit us. We have classes every single week. There's like 16 hours of group classes every month. If you come to business, an extra 4 hours. So it's a way to really level up in your mindset, get an understanding and basis of how the mind works, and then apply it within business. So if you haven't come and joined us, we'll share the link inside of the chat section, or if you're watching the replay underneath in the comments. So thank you, and I will see you at the next perfect time. Thanks, Marcia. Thanks, David. Thanks, Kelly. Christina, thanks for coming along. Have a beautiful evening or day.